Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the final presentation of the Calumet Revisited Forum of the season. I am Michael Bowes of the Association for the Wolf Lake Initiative. I am co-host with Dr. Valerie Pennanen at Calumet College of St. Joseph. Calumet Revisited is funded in part by the Indiana Humanities and the National Endowment for the Humanities. Before we hear from tonight's speaker, Madeleine Tudor, are there any announcements? If not, I have three, in fact. First, that the Calumet Nature Exchange, facilitated by Ollie, meets via Zoom at 7 p.m. Tuesday, May 17th. Licensed teachers in Illinois and Indiana can earn 1 hour of professional development credit for attending. The presentation this evening is being recorded. The recording will be available within a week on Ollie's website. Would everyone please remain on mute? After the presentation, we will have a question and answer session. Tonight, we will hear from Madeleine Tudor of the Field Museum, who will bring us up to date on efforts to establish a national heritage area in the Calumet region. This effort dates back to the early 1990s with the late Dr. James Landing, a geographer at UIC and a birder. But before I do that, there were two other announcements I was going to make. And one is that the 22nd annual Wolf Lake Bi-State Wetlands Wind and Water Festival will be held on Saturday, May 28th at William Power State Recreation Area. We'll have a speaker, archaeologist Les Marzalek, and then after following that, in the morning, we'll have a bike tour of the Wolf Lake watershed, about a 17-mile bike tour. And by the way, I was just out on 34th Street today and saw the work being done to reconnect Wolf Lake with Powderhorn Lake. So, and then a second announcement that I received just an hour ago, and I've already informed Lisa of this, is that the 5th annual BioBlitz, sponsored by the Geographic Society of Chicago, the Friends of Big Marsh, and the Chicago Park District, is scheduled for Saturday, September 24th, between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. at Marsh. So that's kind of exciting. And I think that's it. So without further ado, Madeleine Tudor.
Well, thank you so much, Mike, and thank you everybody for being here this evening. It's great to be here virtually, as is the norm-ish these days. As Mike said, I am going to give an update on the goings-on with the Calumet Heritage Area. And I will start with well, I guess I'm going to be doing a slideshow, but let me get, let's see. I need to share my screen. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, now I just want to turn this into a slideshow, which I had. No, here. Okay, great. Okay, great. So, so one of the things I like to one of the ways I like to think about the Calumet Heritage Area, coming from a museum, I guess, is I like to think about it as a big giant exhibition all across the landscape with lots of stories and programs and different kinds of discussions around all of the, all of the multitude of heritage connections that are embedded in the Calumet region from thousands of years ago when Native Americans were the inhabitants of the region to today when there are still some Native American inhabitants of the region, but there have been, of course, a huge influx of people from all over the world coming to work in the steel mills and associated industries. And then the dramatic changes that brought with, that steel brought to the region in terms of really changing the landscape and altering and creating new ways of living together in an urban context. And people coming again from different parts of the world to live together, speaking different languages, bringing different cultural practices. And then sort of the change in industry with quote unquote, deindustrialization and a really dramatic shift in people's livelihoods and people's connections, to place and to each other. So, and then, but work continues and people in this region, this region continues to be a place of innovation and a place of proud heritage and a place of really amazing biodiversity. And so many stories, those are just, super broad strokes. Most of the folks on this call probably know the region better than I do. But it's a region that has fascinated me since I was a kid, and I've been very, grateful to be able to work professionally and hope and try to help to surface the stories and experiences of people in this region, and to help by doing so help to promote and make visible so many of the current placemaking and cultural and natural stewardship efforts that go on in this region that many or all of you are involved in and that aren't as well known as they should be. So in my opinion, heritage areas are, again, I'm kind of bring it back to that sort of exhibit in a sense on the landscape with, again, programs and discussions and conversations. I guess I kind of gave away the introduction on my first slide, but one of the things that I really like to, another way I like to think about heritage areas and exhibitions within that is a term called transmedia that Chris Wally, Dr. Christine Wally, who is from the Calumet region, wrote this really amazing book about her family, kind of centered on her family, but really about family and class in post-industrial Chicago, focusing on the Southeast side, called Exit Zero. It's been made into a film, a documentary film, has this awesome website. And her work continues, again, to showcase the rich heritage of this region. And one of the things I really like about this model too, is it kind of plays with that, like, you don't have to tell stories one way. You don't have to discuss experiences one way. There's no one way, there's no right way, as long as everyone, is represented. So just kind of playing with that, that idea for heritage areas, I think is fun. So I know a lot of you know about this effort. As Mike said, it started way before I became involved in the region in the early 90s, when the then Mayor Daley was interested in creating a third airport and thought, well, why not do it here? On the southeast side, of course, ignoring the fact that there were whole neighborhoods and people with strong attachments to the place and to each other. And, that served as a catalyst for showcasing, for figuring out ways to really showcase the importance of this region. And biodiversity, as Mike said at the beginning, biodiversity was one of the gems that Dr. Landing held up and said, hey, this place might look like steel mills and urban centers, which it is, but it also has this really amazing biodiversity and these pockets of it that are very important, not only to this region, but to the country and to the world. So fast forward a few years, that effort was taken up after some changes by the Calumet Heritage Partnership. And then the Field Museum was brought, kind of connected in as a partner on continuing to pursue the designation of a national heritage area for the Calumet region. As I'll tell you a little bit further on in the talk, the Field Museum's interest in this region dates back to the beginning of the Field Museum. So there's that's kind of we have collections from the region dating back to the beginning of the institution, and continue to be really drawn to the region because of its biodiversity, cultural diversity, social and natural, change. And so the Field Museum's kind of, yes, this is great. And again, I was wholeheartedly excited to be part of a project to showcase the rich heritage of the region. And this is just kind of a quick overview. Most of you probably are, familiar with some of, at least some of this, but basically what a national heritage area does is a designation that, my slides are not here. Sorry, something got goofed up. A national heritage area is a designation that provides national recognition for areas of the country that have that tells unique stories about our American heritage, not through a national park, which is a place where people don't live, they just come to visit, not through a national monument, which is a similar kind of, smaller piece of land or a particular building, but through a lived-in landscape where stories of natural, cultural, historic, industrial, recreational resources are abundant and tell a story like no other in the country, although there may have some similarities to other places in the country. This is an opportunity for places like the Calumet region to really shine, to have a national spotlight shown on the local efforts of this unique region. So just a few details and specifics here about the program. There are currently 55 national heritage areas in the United States. The first one was created in 1984, which is the I&M Canal National Heritage Area. There's no land ownership associated with heritage areas. There is no the heritage areas don't become national parks, but the National Park Service does help to coordinate and provide administrative oversight. So and they're public-private partnerships, which allows for some flexibility and may be sort of the model for national parks of the future. Another thing is that heritage areas receive funding from the National Park Service, at least $150,000 a year, which really often goes to core staff or just core programming that has to be matched one-to-one. And so that funding really is used to leverage additional funding. So far, we, excuse me, So far, we are still working on bullet point 2 here, which is each heritage area is individually designated by its own act of Congress. So we've done everything to get us to this point of, but just legislation has been drafted. We understand that Congresswoman Robin Kelly from Illinois is interested in introducing that legislation and working with Congressman Mervan, who's the Northwest Indiana District 1. So this is something that is getting traction, and there is Robin Kelly has, spoken publicly of her interest and understanding of the importance of the region. Hopefully that will happen soon. We don't know. So we forge ahead as the Calumet Heritage Area. And as we said, why a Calumet Heritage Area? So much stories to be told, and so much to explore, but also there's an economic angle to it that the more people who visit the region, and the more people in the region who visit other parts of the region, contributes to economic development, and that then is, supports additional economic endeavors. As we know, I'm just going to breeze through a couple of these slides. As we know, the region is rich in resources, and there have been different efforts to engage folks in the National Heritage Area Initiative. We completed a feasibility study, and as part of the feasibility study, identified a number of regional museums. Some are very local throughout in the region, and some are a little bit more regional county museums. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are many more museums throughout the region, and one of the things that heritage areas are really good at is connecting assets or resources or efforts that are on the ground, that are already there, but connecting them up so that there's strength in numbers, strength in networks, and in more coordination. And so as part of the heritage area work, we created the Calumet Curators Network, and we're working on the Calumet Voices National Stories exhibition series. This is something I'm going to showcase today, just because I think it's a good example of what we're doing and what can be done. So this is a 4-part series, an exhibition series. We are just about to open the 3rd of 4. Oh, this is an old, sorry, this slide's a little bit old. This was a pre-COVID slide, apparently, that just hasn't been updated on the dates, but it's the same basic idea that there are 3 exhibitions in the region, each with different partners, each with different collections showcased, each with different stories, but all are connected to the main 3 themes of the region, 3 heritage themes, which are basically revolve around nature, industry, and cultural diversity. Here you can see the first show was at the Pullman, Historic Pullman Visitor Center with the set of partners here. The second show is at the Gary Public Library and Cultural Center with a set of partners here. And that, because of COVID, we just installed that exhibit. The 3rd exhibition with partners here will open in May, on May 19th, and will run through September. So it'll close on October 2nd. I encourage you all to come and see this 3rd of 4 exhibits. A little bit more about that later. The 4th exhibit will be a summative exhibit, so pieces from all 3 of the regional, and local exhibits will be showcased at the Field Museum, along with some of our the Field Museum's own collections from the Calumet region. Here are some photos. Well, each exhibit, as I said, revolves around sort of and interprets these three core themes that pull the region together, that kind of define the region. Here are a couple of photos, or a few photos of each one of the exhibit groups meeting and discussing what the sort of how that group wanted to interpret the main themes of the heritage area with their own collections and their own stories. On the left, the upper left, that is group one, the first group, and we're meeting at the Southeast Chicago Historical Museum, and really loving the how steel is made box. And that was something that we did end up featuring in the exhibition. And as any of you know who've ever worked on any exhibitions or really any kind of display, there's usually a lot more that you want to show than you actually can show in any particular space. So it's hard to make final decisions, but we're in discussion. In this second exhibit on the top right, we're at the Gary Public Library, and again discussing. Oh no, we're not. We're at the we're at the Hammond Public Library in the local history room. And then the third photo here is group three. Oh, that's me. Didn't mean to show myself, but this photo is at the Brower Museum of Art at Valparaiso University. And we're talking about, it's like we're in discussion about themes probably at that point. So these are some photos of the first exhibit being installed, and the also exhibit opening, which took place again at the Pullman National, what is now the Pullman National Monument, excuse me, Visitor Center. And this is the second exhibition at Gary, also being installed, and a happy group of folks from the Calumet Heritage Partnership, who is our overall sort of, we're a group of the Calumet Heritage Partnership as part of the heritage area, sort of layers, but this is a happy group of Calumet Heritage Partnership people once the exhibit was installed at Gary. We had hoped to have lots of programming and interesting things and lots of fun activities to do in relation to this exhibit, but then COVID hit, and our plans were put off for a little while. But we are, as I said, ready to open the third exhibit at the Porter County Museum. And this is we're looking at some objects and contemplating particular maps to showcase. And these are some of our Field Museum collections. This is a show we did, a display that we did in relation to the Shifting Sands documentary that we screened at the Field Museum a few years ago, and we were able to pull collections, just a selection of collections that we have in all four of our collections areas at the Field Museum: botany, anthropology, geology, and zoology. So this is kind of our first Calumet exhibit in a sense. It was just for an afternoon, but it was a great experience and helped us identify some of our kind of most compelling collections from the region. This is our again, the third exhibit that will open in May, that showcases artistic views of the Calumet region. And I encourage you all to come see it. It is being installed as we speak. And so, updating a little bit with some more recent developments, we completed a management plan for the heritage area that takes the feasibility study that was completed a few years ago, few more years ago now, but and the feasibility study kind of makes the case for a heritage area, a national heritage area. It's the why, and the management plan is a little bit more of the how when and who. And this, while it looks, it is a pulled together document, that's true, but it is also very much a draft. It's very open-ended. The chapters of the management plan are here. So it starts with an introduction, talks about the management planning process. There's an interpretive plan, which is, again, very open-ended, but does highlight methods and sites or particular areas of interpretation that could be built upon, used, developed, programmed to help to tell the story of the region. Chapter 4 is, I'll go into a little bit because that talks a little bit more about the goals, the sort of these kind of 4 action goals that were identified through the management planning process. Chapter 5 is a little bit more about the structure and the business and the implementation of the heritage area. Again, this is, and right now this is all in very, very early stages. So the action goals and objectives is something to, talk about a little bit in the sense of these kind of the 2, 3, and 4. The number 1 is great. Yet it is a little bit more about specific operations of the heritage area and partnership networks, and making sure that we're really continuing to connect and grow those partnership networks, which is really the core, the core goal and really the overarching value of the heritage area. But the way that the goals then break out in terms of engagement relate to interpretation or telling the story on the ground. So showcasing, steward, and preserving the heritage landscape. So this is more about culture, about the Calumet Stewardship Initiative work, the bio blitzes that Mike was talking about. There's this 5th one coming up this fall, connecting activities, stewardship activities, both cultural and natural stewardship activities that are going on the landscape to help to share those activities and help to connect those efforts across the region. The 4th goal is about focused more on economic development, and that can relate to tourism, that can relate to business efforts that are maybe very local in nature, but that can be boosted by heritage area efforts and placemaking efforts, and again, connectivity with sort of building on the rich heritage of the region. Again, there are working groups that are very, very just starting to be formed that relate to each one of these goal and objective areas. The kind of needing to prioritize because of time and not having direct funding, because of not being national, having some funding, having to kind of work with, do a lot with a little. The second of the working groups, the telling the story, interpreting, sharing, connecting core regional themes, is the one that's forming first. And then the other 2 hopefully will follow soon. But these are things that you'll be hearing more about. And so if you're interested in connecting up with these groups, there'll be a little bit more information about how to do so. Folks aren't quite there yet. but getting there. Currently there is an events calendar, which I think I will send out a link or to Mike, if that's okay, and you can distribute it. I know you hopefully you've heard about the calendar. I know there are a lot of calendars. We're hoping that we can help with another calendar and not just create one more calendar in the region. But it's pretty easy to use. It's pretty easy to post events on and to visit to find out what kinds of heritage events are going on in the region. It would be great to put any and all events that you think are that pertain to heritage aspects of the region on this calendar. There's also the Calumet Heritage Partnership website. They've redone their website and they have included Calumet Heritage Area Most Endangered list, which is a very informative list relating to the built environment in the region. There's also the Calumet Heritage Partnership still does their yearly conference, which hopefully you all know about, and I know some of you have attended. This year's theme is still I think the conference committee of the Calumet Heritage Partnership is getting underway now to prepare a theme and a program. But we're increasingly, that conference is taking on a national sort of looking at national themes of national importance and looking at themes that are important to the Calumet region and sort of connecting those local and national themes and concerns to then produce a conference that relates both nationally and locally. This is another piece that the heritage area is interested in and is in the management plan, thinking about how the heritage area can help to support, like I kind of help to, I want to say identify, because there are a lot of areas or points in the region that that if you know, that have been identified as important places, but to help to showcase those and create awareness around those points as gateways to the region. And there's a lot of there are a lot of sites listed here, but through branding and identity, which is another piece, kind of fits into the economic development goal, through branding and promotional materials. But it would be great if people, when they're in the region, kind of know, people from outside the region know they're in the region, kind of see some recognition or recognize certain signage, certain language, the logo, have some information that tells them that this, why this region is important, what kinds of, how they can learn more. So if there are points within the region that can serve as gateways, that is something that the heritage area would be useful for in terms of coordinating and, again, helping to showcase. So that's something in the management plan that hopefully will be something that will move forward in the near future. And I just wanted to throw in a few slides from work that is underway. This beautiful, if you haven't been to Big Marsh, to the Ford Calumet Environmental Center, please visit. It's gorgeous and very interesting artwork and great bike, course, and the building is beautiful. So, and these are just on the left, this is a steel plate that was brought to our attention from the then ArcelorMittal, now Cleveland Cliffs, that was found in the old Inland Steel plant, that we hope to be able to showcase at the Field Museum Calumet Voices National Stories exhibition. We don't know yet. We're working on it. But if not there, and even if we are able to show it there, it would be great to have that as something that's accessible to everyone in the region to be able to visit, whether it's at a museum in the region or somewhere outdoors as part of a kiosk. It has engraved in it, or it's not engraved, it's embossed, names of women who worked in the steel mill in 1943. So it tells a story just by looking at it. It's very big. It's 9 feet tall by 4.5 feet wide. And we just hope that it can be out in the region for people to see. And if the Field Museum does show it, we want it to be in the region. And so hopefully that will happen. It's really amazing. Right now, it's still at Inland Steel and it's very heavy. But also, I just wanted to show this sign does not exist for Wolf Lake, but this is an example of some of the gateway kinds of signage that could happen in the region that would help to identify, hey, this is part of the heritage area. It's also Wolf Lake. It has, not to take away from each particular site, but to give a little bit of cohesion and coordination visually around points of interest and potential gateways in the region. So that is it on my end. I would love to take questions or thoughts, ideas for discussion. Thank you for listening.
Hello? Hello?
Hi.
Hey, this is Blake. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Okay, I was wondering if you all, if there's any Native American heritage sites in the Calumet area that you know of.
There are. I'm so glad you brought that up. There are, and there are many. And we hope to do more to help to showcase those sites. And we are and work with Native American tribes who have heritage ties to the Calumet region, and some of whom still live in the region, to make that happen, to help to really showcase and have and facilitate Native American folks, tribal members, tell their stories of the region, explain what the region is, explain, points of interest, important places to them, and to talk about their experiences of connection to the region. Thank you for bringing that up.
And the Potawatomi are the main icons of the region. And is there any more evidence of the Miami and Peoria nations living in that area at one time before the Potawatomi came?
Well, I don't know if it's before the Potawatomi came, but I do know that they were all in the region, and I believe, I'm not sure specific timeframes, but I do know, and I believe that they were sort of commingling. I don't know specifics of specific years, but I do know that they were all here in the region and passed through the region, and that the region was an important part of their lives and still is.
I'm from Urban Growers Collective, and I'm growing a community, some gardens for the Miami, Potawatomi, Peoria, and
Nice.
or Iowa tribes that once lived in my community in South Chicago. And I want people to remember the legacy of those tribes, as well as early settlers such as the Germans, Swedes, and others.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that. That sounds wonderful. Does anyone else have any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
You referenced at the Porter County Museum, Artistic Views of the Calumet Region as being the third exhibition. Are there dates for that?
Yes. How do I stop sharing? Okay, here we go. Yes, the exhibit will open on May 19th and it will close on October 2nd.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
After a 2-year delay.
Yes. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Welcome. You have to come see it.
I plan to.
Can I answer any other questions or any other,
My name
does
is
anyone
Walter.
want to share a thought?
My name is Walter. You obviously have a lot of work to do yet. What's your highest priority at this time? What would you say here to get done?
That is such a good question. That is such a good question. I don't even, I think I can give you a few that I know of. I know working to pull together one of the working groups to move forward. So the interpretation working group, it's education, interpretation, and curation working group. So there are various projects that would fall into that working group that we want to move forward on, such as getting some gateway recognition going, moving towards getting a little bit more of the kind of branding and identity out there, but then also really looking at what kinds of educational, there's a big interest in curricular development and educational materials, both in higher education and K through 12. And so starting to look at some avenues into developing curricular materials, and internships is another piece of that puzzle that I think there's so many great universities in the region. St. Joseph's College of Calumet College of St. Joseph's is one of them, and lots of students needing internship opportunities, and lots of organizations in the Calumet region needing interns to help. So I think I'd love to see the heritage area focus on that. I don't know if that is a particular time-wise, hopefully that can happen sooner rather than later. And funding is always a priority. So
Thank you.
And are there universities and others who are studying Native American life in the Calumet?
yeah, there are, yeah.
And I've heard, and have you heard of the Calumet Quarter from the University?
Yes, University of Chicago students. That's an awesome program. I think we haven't, Chris Wally is here.
Hi, Madeleine. Thank you so much. That was great. That was really
Hello, oh my
wonderful.
gosh,
I actually have 2 questions for you, if that's okay.
of course.
So the first one, I know I've heard you speak about this briefly before, but you'd mentioned this time as well that the Field Museum has these early artifacts from around Wolf Lake and other areas. And I was just wondering if you had a minute, if you could just tell us a little bit more about what kinds of things are there from the early days.
Sure.
And then the second question was, in terms of thinking about heritage areas, so I was wondering, out of the 50, heritage areas, are there others in similar kinds of regions that are kind of industrial, post-industrial places? And is there any kind of communication across those kinds of sites? I was just curious.
That's a really good question. I'll take that one first. There is yes, there are post-industrial heritage areas that focus on post-industrial heritage, and one is called Rivers of Steel, and that is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and is probably our that's sort of our big sibling, you know, kind of our model in many ways for the Calumet Heritage Area, although we have, of course, our own unique stories and a little bit more of an environmental, kind of a richer and more unique biodiversity footprint. The communications between heritage areas often take place through a network called the Alliance of National Heritage Areas. Of the 55 National Heritage Areas currently designated in the country, the majority of them belong, not all, but the majority belong to the Alliance of National Heritage Areas, which is its own association. It's not governmentally run, but they do have, they meet in Washington once a year. They meet at a particular heritage area once a year. They have a communications group, and so that's the primary way that folks communicate. But there's no, but yeah, no, you're getting me thinking about all kinds of other connections that need to be happening, which is also, I just wanted to circle back to Mr. Skiba's question about priority. One of the big priorities that all heritage areas have, that this one has, is communications, because communications and network building is really core to what heritage areas do, and it's very hard to stay on top of. And that is something that is definitely a priority of this heritage area. So in terms of field museum collections, I can say a little bit about kind of our four main collections areas, and our anthropological collections are I'll leave those to the side a little bit, because we're working on sort of identifying which are the collections there that do tell the best stories of the region. But we do have, most of those collections are archaeological, and there are some that are ethnological. So most of those are older Native American artifacts that aren't super well identified. But there are some that are ethnological that are a little bit more recent in and possibly a little bit better identified. Don't quote me on that, because I'm not, I know that there are some of the older objects and specimens, objects in the anthropology collection that are extremely well identified. It's just, that's not where the strength of the collection is, I believe. In the botanical collection, there are two, the big, sort of the showstopper. One of the showstoppers is Thismia americana, which was a plant that was found in 1916 near the Acme Coke plant that was, I guess, being kind of built or getting becoming more active on the southeast side of Chicago, and was never seen after that. And there are 6 specimens in the world, and the Field Museum has 2. And that was those were collected in 1916. The fish and snakes collected from Wolf Lake are also sort of the some of the oldest collections that that we hold from this region. There's a Massasauga rattlesnake. There are I could tell you the fishes, but I don't have them in front of me and don't remember specifically which fish we have. Some of them will be on display at the Field Museum exhibition. And our zoological collection is pretty expansive. For example, there are a collection of red-headed woodpeckers that show in their, so they have red heads and white coats, white bodies, and they show in their body feathers different tones of grayness depending on different eras of industrialization. So that's one example, sort of one story. We have an extensive collection of fungi, which is super interesting. And scientific research is still going on in the region, and our collections from the region are still used in current research. So I think I hit all 4 departments. I think I
Great.
did.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Will we have a Thismia hunt this year?
Will there be? I don't know. That is a good question. Yeah, the Thismia story is super interesting and has made its way into hunts and a play. There's a play about Thismia, and super cool. Can I answer any other questions?
I would like to add something on fish,
Yes.
because Dr.
Thank you.
Dr. Phil Willink, who is president of OLLI now,
Yes.
has written a really interesting article maybe about 10, 12 years ago about a century-long on what fish were present in Wolf Lake maybe every 20 years. He was able to collect, to write the article because of the collection at the Field Museum. So I can't add any specifics, but I can direct you to Phil, and he can, or to his article. And if you haven't seen it, I'm sure he could just send you a copy of the article if you're interested further yet. That's all I just wanted to add.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I had muted myself. Thank you for that, Mike. I did just grab a collections list, and I can say that we have majestic bluegills and carp and a hognose snake that was collected in 1902. Although I don't know if the hognose snake was collected from Wolf Lake. The fish, the majestic bluegills and carp were.
And they go back
What about Lake Sturgeon and bowfin?
No, those I don't. We might have some of those too. I'm not sure.
You mentioned briefly that you were looking at curricular activities for the K through 12. And to me, that's an untapped energy opportunity in that to get history fair projects, science fair projects, and so on going on, and getting teens involved and so on like that. And I know Lisa Downs is on here, and Ted Panesius and so on, about the Boy Scouts that have different project opportunities, and that citizenship merit badge, history merit badge, different types of outing opportunities and so on like that. So when you're looking at developing curricular type of activities K through 12, keep in mind that the Scouts can be your outing or experiential base for the school teachers that right now don't have the opportunity for field trips in that. Whereas when you're looking at this, that you want to keep this in mind, that you can get the secondary type of resources into the hands of the teachers in that, but through scouting in that, they can have primary experiences into the region. So as conservation chair and so on, and Lisa Downs on here, who's a member of the committee in that, we'd be more than happy to work with you on this and that, to explore the possibilities. So
That's wonderful. Thank
Yeah,
you for
yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
we'll definitely take you up on your offer. I think part of teachers don't have time. We're what I think exactly as you're saying, we've got groups who are already in place and looking for additional, looking for some additional experiences that really ground them in the region's heritage. How do we make that accessible without overburdening teachers, but really engage? The Boy Scouts are a great example.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, 'cause, I mean,
Yeah,
the leaders are always looking for exciting things to do for a day outing or, and
Yes.
that, and I could see, you know, scouting heritage days at different
absolutely.
locations and so on like that.
That's,
Uh,
and that's a great idea. And I just want to say too, this has me thinking now of opportunities there, because if we can connect them with other programs or people in the region, like park rangers, because we have 2 national parks, the Pullman National Monument and the Indiana Dunes National Park. So these are folks who already have some of the content
oh, yeah,
ready.
yeah,
And
definitely.
so if we can connect up versus like reinvent the wheel, this is great. Such great suggestions.
Yeah, because if you want to have a think tank sometime in that, and is there any city college that's in the Illinois side that's down in that region? Is the Kennedy King College there and so on?
I
Or-
know that Chicago State University is there, but that's not
Yeah.
a city college. And is Kennedy King I'm not sure if Kennedy King is like a little west. Or
But again, the community
yeah,
colleges,
yes.
you know, are often overlooked in being a environmental
Totally
renewal,
agree.
recharge, education, focal point, and so on like that, at least in Illinois.
Totally
and that,
agree.
yeah.
Yes.
And so
Thank
on.
you.
Yeah. So
More to
anyhow,
come. No, more to come for sure.
yeah.
Can I answer? I know we're getting close to 6. Can I answer any other questions? Any more ideas out there?
Anybody studying ethnobotany of the Calumet area? Because I'm making a book this year about ethnobotany for Native Americans and early
Oh,
settlers.
wonderful.
And
Wonderful. Yeah, I think there are folks.
I was wondering if there's anybody out there who's studying ethnobotany besides me.
I think there are folks studying ethnobotany. I think there are, yeah. I can't give you any names off the top of my head, though. I think we have, is Mr. Morrisroe, I think you're muted. Here we go. Uh-oh, I think you're still muted. I don't know. It's not working. Zoom is great when it works. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm not hearing. Is anyone could type something in the chat maybe? I don't know if anyone else has a hand up. Let's give Mr. Morrisroe a chance to. Mike, I think maybe should we, Mr. Morrisroe, if you email Mike your question or comment, he can send it to me. I know sometimes technology disconnects and it's, who knows. Oh, wait, Mike, no, wait, is it me? Am I the one who's, no. Mike, you're muted also.
Okay.
Here we go.
You can hear me. Okay, I'll email him and get it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I think we've run out of questions. And so I just want to thank you for showing up. And
Of course.
no, I'm just kidding.
I know.
So I'd just like to make a note that this is our 9th season begins September 6th with Dr. Philip Scarpino, environmental historian from IUPUI. I mean, I love that. Who will be speaking about the Anthropocene epoch. And that will be on September 6th. And I wish everyone a pleasant summer. And we'll see you in September. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to have spoken with you all today.